Well, do you ever just wonder, what if I just quit my job and pursue something I was passionate about?
Yeah, well, one woman did just that. She paused her successful career and explored the what-if jobs of her dreams. And then she wrote a book about it. All right, it is quite the story. Welcome, welcome. Joining us today is Alisha Fernandez Miranda. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
So excited to talk to you about everything.
All right. So you were the CEO of a powerful, successful company, and you decided to do this. Talk to me about what it was like to come to that decision when you are, on top of that, a wife and mother to twins.
It took so much kind of convincing myself that it was going to be worthwhile to do something that was not on the expected path. I think I'd spent my whole life kind of doing all the things I thought I was supposed to do. I had gotten to the place I was supposed to be, had the family, had the job, had the title and everything. And so it took me a while in being really unhappy and feeling very stuck to get to a place where I could realize, okay, I actually maybe need to do something different. Maybe I need to think about success in a different way. And I had this very unorthodox idea, which was to just go do a whole bunch of internships.
And talk about some of these what-if jobs and internships that you got to try.
So I managed to do 4, which was, I think, pretty incredible because this all took place during COVID. So that was very unexpected. It was supposed to go in a totally different direction. But I worked in musical theater. I shadowed a Broadway and off-Broadway musical right before everything shut down. I worked for a retro dance and fitness company doing social media and trying lots of different fitness classes from around the world from my living room. And then I worked for a contemporary art dealer in London and in a beautiful little hotel and restaurant on the Isle of Skye in Scotland.
So many different things. Now, in addition to this being a learning opportunity and a beautiful way to try different things, you also had some hilarious moments. Walk us through that.
Oh man, I was so bad at so much of what I was doing, especially anything that involved hand-eye coordination. I just realized I had like no skills. So in the restaurant in particular, I almost set myself on fire. I spilled an entire bottle of Coke on myself at the beginning of my shift and had to work the rest of the day like that. I kept like dropping food, and once I checked someone into the wrong room, someone else was already in there. They were having a private moment, and that was a whole thing. So it was extremely humbling, I think, because I had gotten used to sort of being good at things. It was very refreshing to not be good at things, I suppose. I'm sorry for all those people I served, by the way.
I feel like you have to try a lot of things before you find something that you end up being really good at, right?
Yes, so true.
Talk to me about kind of how this affected your identity, you know, trying all these different things in like your 30s and 40s and making all of these changes. What did it kind of teach you about yourself?
Just refreshed everything, really. And, you know, my dad is a Cuban immigrant. I grew up with a very second-generation mentality, you know, have to get an education, have to succeed and do the things. So I had always followed this kind of external metric of success that I thought was important to me. And once I started letting that go a little bit and stopped being afraid to fail, started just being in the experience to learn and to kind of grow, I just found there was a whole different way I could think about my life and what I was doing and how success looked to me and how I wanted to chart my whole path. And I learned that I needed to be less controlling over everything I was doing. And sometimes I just needed to take my hands off the wheel and say, all right, let's see what happens next.
And I think this book is just a really interesting way to show that it's never too late for second chances. But sometimes those chances we don't get to pick, right? Like whether we're laid off or there's a big life change. But you're showing that you can make that your choice. Talk to me about sort of living in the moment that way, making those scary decisions on your own.
Yeah. It's so easy, I think, especially as we get older, especially as we have kids, it's so easy to get stuck in where you are and to feel like there's no other path or there's no other option. Or I hear all the time, oh, I'm too old. Maybe I could have done this before. And the fact is that that's just not true. Not everyone needs to go and take a year and do internships, but there's so many ways to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. I mean, the question I ask myself now all the time as a result of this is, does this opportunity have a decent probability of failure? If it looks like it might be something I'm not great at, if it seems uncomfortable, but I might learn from it and I might have fun doing it, I try to do it. And whether it's singing with my choir at the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh, where I live, or stand-up paddleboarding, which I could not be worse at. But to just kind of take those opportunities, life is short, and I think you really have to try to do the things that scare you the most.
For sure. And so when you were doing all of these, did you know that you were going to write a book at the end of it?
The book was like a very convenient excuse. A friend of mine had like thrown it as an offhand comment. She's like, oh, this would make a good book. But I found that when I was kind of telling people what I was doing, they were very uncomfortable with this idea that I was just like going to pursue my personal passion. You know, that was, as a mom, as a woman about to turn 40, that seemed like kind of revolutionary. If I said to people, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to write a book about it, all of a sudden that was like an acceptable thing to do because it was a project at the end. But then I found, as I was writing about it and reflecting on it, that I loved the writing process. That was like my 5th internship, writing the book.
And you're going on tour with America Ferrera. Talk to us all about that.
We had an amazing event in New York. This is my 6th stop of tour, so I've like crisscrossed the country in the past few weeks. We had an event at the Strand. She is a friend and like an amazing human being. And you know, she's also at that age and stage in life. The book really resonated with her, which has been wonderful to me. And to hear that from her and so many other women and men who are going through kind of similar things. So it's been awesome.
So I do know that many people at home who are watching will think that is wonderful for you, but I can't take a year off to pursue my passion. What would you recommend for somebody who is looking to make a change but has some limitations, whether they're financial or familial?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like I did this very big thing, but I actually did it in very small incremental steps. So at the beginning, the idea was, sure, let's do a year, but it was like, well, let me try the first one and see what happens. And that's kind of what I think is the thing to do. Pick a small thing that feels doable, manageable. Maybe it's a class on the weekends. Maybe it's learning a new skill in the evenings outside of work or outside of when your kids or your family at home. But don't stop doing those things. Maybe it's just going to a museum because you love art and you want to rekindle that. I think there are so many ways to reconnect with the things that bring us joy and that make us feel passionate about life and ourselves, and they don't require a whole year off and a bunch of internships to do. So, you know, anything can be a what-if moment, really, if you kind of put it in that framework.
I think it makes you feel like you're living a really full life, too, when you're doing all these different things, even if you're not that good at them, you know?
Yeah, sometimes the best things are the things you're terrible at, I have found.
100%. Was there anything that you were unexpectedly good at, though?
I did a lot of fitness classes for my fitness internship. I did sort of 24 different online fitness courses, and I was like pretty good at some of the yoga, weird yogas, like Voga and all of those things, which I did not expect to be as good at. I'm not sure anybody would ever hire me to run one of those classes, but I did enjoy them, and I was surprised at how much I did, especially because I spent so much of the pandemic baking, and so I really needed that yoga to get in place.
Well, we love hearing about this experience. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be so excited to read all about it as well.
Much.
Yes, for more information on the book, you can head to fox13seattle.com/Studio13Live.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I love this.
Come see us when you write your second book, too.
Well, I think I need to do an internship here, maybe, or a can internship.
A can?
Yes.
Can.
I'm like stacking up my list now.
Do that yoga. Get stretched out before you do it. Okay, coming up, executive chef Brian Clevenger is here.